Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 177. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and number one bestselling author of Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. And I'm also the founder of hiptalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores today. And today I have a very special guest with me, Victoria Wieck. Victoria Wick went from being a penniless immigrant to a successful business owner, generating over 500 million in retail sales by unleashing her passion for jewelry. She had no money, no expertise, no inside connections, and no mentors. The only thing she had going for her was her desire to succeed and the willingness to work hard. Her products have been sold in over 30 countries. She's had her own TV show for the past 24 years, 19 years on HSN, and currently on ShopHQ. She's survived her many obstacles and mistakes and now spends a good deal of time sharing the lessons she's learned on her podcast, Dollar Hobbies, as well as with keynote speaking engagements. And she can be found at victoriawick.com, which is www.victoria, Wieck.com. And we'll have all that information in the show notes. And her books to be released in 2022 are science fiction book, Shattered Sky, Dollar Hobbies, How to Turn Your Passion into a Multi-Million-Dollar Business. And today, Victoria is going to be sharing some of her insights on the 7-step system to turn a hobby into a multi-million-dollar business. Welcome to the show, Victoria.
Wow, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to share my story and also learn from you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you for being on the show and for sharing your story with our guests. You are definitely a self-made woman of your right, and I am really, really excited to share your story and your business tips for success, and really give our listeners something that they can use to maybe help them to grow their own $1 million fortune and business. And so thank you so much for being willing to be generous with your information.
Well, first of all, I want to say that, to make a successful business, you need a piece of luck. There's just a lot of things that, of course, I really worked hard, but it would be a mistake to think that I did all the right things so I will share what I've experienced, what I've seen. And I think more important than anything, some of the failures that actually led to success later on. I think those are the real golden nuggets.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So yeah, let's just dive right in and talk about your story, how your family came to America, the promised land, in search of the American dream. So
Yep.
what was it like? You found out after getting here that your family only had $30.
Right. So when we left in 1971, Korea was still ruled by a military junta. So it was right after the Korean Civil War. So most men my father's age were drafted into the army or to some sort of military. So basically, and my father was pretty high ranked. And when we left, we got here thinking there was going to be a little bit of a safety net, and all of the money was frozen in both countries. So we actually were stuck here. We couldn't go back, and we would have been hunted there. So we had to stay here. We had no money. We couldn't rely on anybody. And so my parents started working the very next day. And it's the first time I saw my parents working like manual labor. My mother had never worked until that day. So it wasn't like they were rich, but upper middle class upbringing. I felt like as a kid I had everything, but my father, he had 4 girls, and Korea was not kind to young girls. They really wanted boys, and girls, were highly discouraged from going to college because nobody wanted an educated girl, or God forbid they have opinions, that would be a real disaster. So they didn't want anything. And, if you actually did go to college, some of the real upper, echelons sent their girls to college, and they would major in things like home economics, i.e. cooking and cleaning or whatever. And and also sometimes they would, study things like piano. And my father said, if my girls want to be a housewife or someone, let it be her choice, not a forced choice by society. So he wanted to come to America, and he told us like over and over that America is the promised land where all dreams come true. Well, it did not happen in the first couple of years.
Yeah, you don't just arrive here and your dreams turn true.
That did not happen. I mean, I went to school in East Los Angeles, where even today, I mean, kids go to school with switchblades, and, there were gunfights were quite often. And I saw sirens, more sirens than I had ever seen in my life in my first day of school. So things were kind of scary, and kind of scary in a sense that it was very uncertain. I didn't speak any English. So, and I think this is why I was so fascinated with what you do, is that when you're in that situation, if you keep if you keep visiting your past, at least the good parts of your past, and you hang on to that, and somehow you let that define you, or you let that get in the way of, oh, I had this, I had that, Dad, you're stupid, or, things like that. I don't think I would ever made it out. I think I had the ability to use my mind to think about, hey, okay, all this bitching, all this complaining, all of this what if stuff isn't helping me at the moment. So what is it I could do? Like, is there anything I can do to help myself? And I wasn't even thinking about American Dream at that point. I'd already given up on that a long time ago. So, I was like, okay, what is it that I could do to help myself? And so I decided to learn to speak English. And then you had some practical problems. There was no ESL classes, there was no money, there was no internet, there was no Google. So my dad actually did have a English to English dictionary that he had bought before he left Korea. So before he went to work every morning, he would circle all the letters in the dictionary, all the words in the dictionary that had 5 letters or below. He didn't want me to memorize words like contradiction. It's too many words, too many letters. So I did 200 words a day. And I found out pretty quickly that American teenagers actually they exist on 2,500 words. Okay, vocabulary, 2,500 words. So it turns out after about a year, I actually was much more equipped in vocabulary than most American kids. And so I ended up actually winning awards and all this stuff. And I was writing essays. I got to UCLA, USC on scholarship. And then my life struggle really happened, which is you get your dream job, and it is not what you wanted, right? You go to corporate, and then you're like working 15, 16 hours a day. And I got to thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm doing the same thing to my kids that my parents did to me, which was I had somebody else raise my parents like left me to raise the rest of my siblings. So we never actually saw them, but I was going to leave my kids to some nannies, right? So I then decided to take a leap of faith and start my own company.
That is amazing. And I love that, you got here, you decided to learn English. You realized that your vocabulary had far exceeded that of the typical American who, I mean, and English is not an easy language to learn.
Right. Yeah.
So I just tip my hat off to anybody that has come to our country legally and immigrated here, and and decided and chose to make something. And the other point that I just also am so impressed with is that you realized that every single day, I mean, you didn't say it in these words, but you made me remember that every single day is a blank canvas. And
Right.
you can
Yeah.
choose from this moment, even if you failed before, it doesn't matter. Today is a brand new day, and you can make whatever you want out of it. So
I love that. And I think also, Victoria, as we'll discover, through the rest of the show, that there were so many times and moments where you had to rely on the power of your own mind, that, not to rely on other people, the media. Because if you listen to, all the conditioning that our society gives you, some of them are very subtle. Some of them are very, obnoxiously obvious. But we, especially women at that time in 1971, we were told, nobody wants like a smart woman. Even in America, women didn't have equality. And somehow, like, our time was worth less because they wouldn't hire a woman with 2 kids. I mean, that's a fact, So if the corporations were smart enough, they'd hire the woman first because they're used to multitasking. They're used to pacifying everybody around them. They always excel, right? But that was the corporate landscape we inherited. People like you and me, when we went to work in corporate, we had to outwork all our male counterparts to aspire to get equal pay. And I'm not, this show is not about that, but I'm saying that if you let any of those things kind of interfere with your own future, what you have, you just have to have that resolve. I always say to people, think about what you really want, define your dream. And by the way, if your dream is not big enough to scare you, don't even bother. I mean, as long as you're dreaming, dream big, and then work it backwards and say, what are the things I could do? And then that's when you start to get in. When I started my business, even my parents, it told me, the fastest way, I brought you to America. We made all of the sacrifices. You have no idea what it took us to get over here. We literally risked our lives over here. And we don't want anything bad to happen to you. So you're going to go and get your fancy degree, and you're going to go start a business where you're certain to face bankruptcy. Like, okay.
No, it's amazing. I love this because, despite the fact that, it was a man's world, and you had all the odds against you.
all the
You had
odds.
every single odd against you, but you chose. You made a decision. You committed. You decided, this is what I want for myself, and I just tip my hat to that. And so you started a business
Right.
with absolutely no money in one of the most competitive industries. And I know I have a relationship with somebody who's in that industry.
Yeah, it is. It's sleazy, and it is a very, very competitive business. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And this is a relationship. This is a business that relies on relationships with suppliers, lots of money. And so what was your strategy? How did you plan for success in this type of an industry?
To be quite honest with you, I didn't plan on being successful. I just planned on making a living. I was kind of really hell-bent on living the life I wanted to live. And that life was, I want to spend time with my family. And that includes taking care of my parents, because they were still immigrants and they were still like working manual labor jobs. And the good news is I did actually put both of my parents back through school, and my father got his PhD here and everything. But, before that, all I wanted to do was to make $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. But I wanted to work 20 hours a week doing what I love to do. Now, as long as your goal is $23,000 a month, if you do the numbers, that isn't like such a enormous mountain to climb, that I felt like, I don't need to make $4 million in revenue. I just need to whatever that little, if I don't hit the 3,000 and I only hit 2,000, I can still exist on it. It's not my ideal. I can still exist on it. But my thing was, at the end of my journey, I can still look back and say that my life was still enjoyable. The only thing I didn't get was plenty of money, but everything else was still enjoyable. I got to spend time I took care of my parents, took care of my kids, and I was able to draw, sketch, and, work on things that I love, right? So that life was worth it. Because if I was in corporate, I may make a little bit more money, but I would have been miserable in all the other stuff. And you might still get fired, So I was like, which is it? So, I took a leap of, and you were right about jewelry business. I mean, I've traveled, as you said, like 30, 35 countries. I've actually traveled to a lot more than that, but I met my products are distributed in many countries, and I have great relationships with all of them. You can go to Africa, Peru, you can go to the Caribbean, you can go anywhere in the world. There's always a Chinese restaurant and a jewelry store. Okay, so it's a very competitive place. It's very competitive environment. And so what I did was I looked at, okay, well, how can I differentiate myself? Okay, that's one thing. And what I found was when I was in corporate, do you remember? You probably don't remember. You're a lot younger than I am. But when I went to work, I used to, wear like tailored men's suits, almost like a made for women. And we had this little white button-down shirt that had a rounded collar. We had little bow ties, okay, little, pump heels. Everybody wore those in navies and grays and black. Okay. So we didn't have a way to differentiate our softness, our femininity, or our personality. Jewelry in those days were sold like nighttime jewelry is all diamonds and, fancy stuff for status for women who didn't go to work. And then, by the way, those people kind of looked down on us, believe it or not. And then you have women who went to work who looked like their male counterparts. I mean, if you watch people from the back, you actually couldn't tell which one was a guy or a girl, So I thought, there has to be jewelry that's elegant, understated, down to earth, but still has a little bit of personality that shows that you care about yourself and that you can differentiate yourself and that, you're successful. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune. So I basically catered to that woman and I spoke to her because she actually had a real need. She needed to go to work every day with something different. And she had money that she was making on her own, right? So, and couldn't you believe that when I did this in 89 to 90, 91, there was not a single jewelry company that actually catered to that woman. It was all about, this is 2-carat diamond for XYZ, and this is a 5-carat diamond for this. Well, who cares? So when I came up with that, all I had to do is show up. And so, when you might ask, how do you start a business with no money? Well, I didn't have any samples. And I realized there was no way I could get any samples made. So how do you sell stuff without samples? Well, I sketched out, a lookbook because I figured when I try to get samples made, they were telling me, depending on the model, complexity of the model, we can charge you somewhere between $300 to $1,200 per style. Okay. Well, if I had 10 styles and 10 styles wouldn't get anybody's attention, that would still be $5,000 to $10,000. Well, if I had 100 styles, that'd be basically $50,000 to $100,000 before I sold anything, before I even figured out if I could actually sell it to anybody. So I was like, well, that's a stupid thing. So I basically went, it's really stupid way to, people do it all the time, Victoria, believe it or not, so I thought, okay, well, that's not going to work. So I used my common sense and I thought, so I had this lookbook and I went to the Neiman Marcus on Rodeo Drive, Rodeo and Wilshire. And I asked to see the assistant department manager and asked her if she had anything like this, could it sell? And I just told her, look, I'm a nobody and I have no connections. I have no money. And, I dream of owning my own business someday. And I was just wondering, could you look at it? And so she looked at it and she's like, oh my God, like none of our customers want to buy anything in the case. They want to buy something that's like down the pipe, fresh that nobody has seen before. And yes, I could sell these designs all the time. So she actually asked me if I could leave her my lookbook and that she could call some of her best customers. And she did. And, she ended up selling a bunch of stuff off of the drawings and they didn't even care how much money it was.
That is
they were
amazing.
Like, I know, isn't that crazy?
I love it. Talk about the creativity and, most people would go into that with no money. Well, they wouldn't even dare go into it with no money, number one. So they would have just immediately just written it off as, well, this is just a pipe dream and there's no way that I can do this because of all these obstacles. And you just looked outside of the box and decided there's a way to make this work. And I just love that about you. I love hearing that. So please continue. That is,
Boy, I think you're giving me way too much credit for that. I think what it is that when you have abundance, when you have choices, and many of you who are listening to the two Victorias here right now, you might say, I don't have money. Well, you might have 10 grand, you might have 5 grand, you might say, I don't have any money. You might say, I don't have any connections, I don't have this, I don't have that. These are all excuses, right? So you can sit there and because I don't have X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, I'm not even going to start. I'm not even going to start working on my dream. I'd rather work on somebody else's dream, work for somebody else, for a certain amount of money. I would just say that in my case, I didn't have any choices. It was either do that or just give up on everything and go to work for somebody and put it off. And so I think that when your choices are that limited, it's almost easier to make the choice, which is, how do I show? My choice was, how do I show what I can do to anybody, really? And I didn't go asking for the manager. I asked for the department, assistant manager of the jewelry department, because I figured she might have a little bit more time. She might have a little more empathy. But what I learned at that time was America was still kind of like a new country to me. What I learned at that time was Americans so love the underdog. When I told them I have no money, okay, I have no money. I, wish I can show you samples, but I don't have any money. So, if you can guide me to which types of things might sell, that I might make a few samples based on your feedback. So they just, really love that unpretentious, very vulnerable, completely honest person looking for help.
yeah, the humility of like, I'm not really sure about this, but maybe how we can make this happen. And I think when you come from that place of humility, people just like you said, they
I want to
are
help
rooting
you.
for they want to help. And so so what were some of the biggest mistakes that you made along the way? I mean, did you ever have any moments when it just seemed like it wasn't going to work or
Oh yeah, many.
what what were some of those like?
Let me think about which one do I want to start with. Um, so that could be like a whole show. I was actually on a show called Your Favorite Mistake as opposed to Your Biggest Mistake,
Oh,
because it was kind of an interesting show. But I'll tell you, the first mistake I made, and I still make this mistake all the time, and that is, and I thought about this morning even because something happened to me a couple of days ago. I have a real problem seeing people for anything other than the good of them. Like when somebody tells you, oh yeah, no problem, I'll make those samples for you. I think that, he looks good, he looks very genuine, he looks authentic, looks like a hardworking guy. And I believe that. So what happened was when I finally did sell some pieces and I had to actually make the sample, and I'm very honest, always honest. And I tell them, okay, well, I don't have any samples with me. And she said, if you can make it, we'll sell it. Okay. So she said, like I got all these people that are just waiting for this to come in. Well, so when I was talking to the manufacturers, the first guy said, how many can you sell? And I said, I don't know how many I could sell. I mean, I could sell maybe one or two. That's a sure thing that I have an order for. But even then, I'm not sure that it actually sells because it has to, the sample has to look like what I do, right? That's one. And two, I don't know what price you're going to give it to me at because I'm new to the business. I know nothing. So I could sell 10,000. I could sell one. I could sell zero. I don't know. I mean, I could pick a number and tell you, but it would just be an educated guess, which is a totally honest answer. And I thought people would actually appreciate the honesty. But the first guy said, I can't make any samples. Even if you're willing to pay me like $300, it's still a waste of time because like between the gold and the materials, I'm making no money. So I don't want to do it. Second guy said, we don't really have time for this, whatever. The third guy said, yeah, oh yeah, I'll definitely, we'll do it, and so, but I never got the samples. What happened was the people, the manufacturing area know that they knew I didn't have money. And I told them that. So what they did was, even if I got an order, they were wondering, well, how is she going to float the money? How is she going to pay me, even if she gets the orders, right? So instead of asking me this, they just went out and sold it to all my competitors. They took
oh,
my designs and my designs are so unique. There's no mistaking about it. In fact, I actually later on went out and won the copyright also on this thing. But, they just because they sent it to people that they know have connections with the big department stores because they knew it would sell right away because those buyers already said they're selling it.
Right.
So all this, I got screwed over. And the reason I found that out is because I never got the samples and I knew there was a demand for this. So I spent $1,000 going to the trade show to look for new manufacturers. And that's where I saw all my samples everywhere. And I was like, hello. That kind of incident happened to me many times. And but I still meet new, you're still meeting new owners of new mines. They'll tell you they own the mine, they have all this stuff. And, a lot of them are just liars. They're just big BSers. They want to get the order and they want to, do the thing on the back. They think they can source it later, but they're still not the prime source, right? So, I said I could just turn into be a nasty person and still I could take the road of trusting nobody until I can prove, they can prove to me, or I can still trust them first and then keep verifying. So that mistake, cost me probably about 6 months to a year in time, which is eternity when you got no income sitting there. Stuff like that happened quite a bit. The other mistakes that I've made was like not having a system over. So, for example, I got an order from one of the TV networks, and it was a pretty big order. It was about a $300,000 order. Ooh. It was a big order at that time. Okay, it's a big order today, but it was definitely a big order, and that one almost put us into bankruptcy. But so the buyer ordered. It was for Mother's Day / May, which is a birthstone for emerald is birthstone for May. So Mother's Day happens in May. So she ordered the whole suite: necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring for Mother's Day special. Okay, so it was really a privilege, and she ordered all this stuff. Well, my employees came in and ordered from different manufacturers because we didn't want to have one manufacturer now in control over anything because they can sell it to other people. We can always go back and get recourse, but you still losing relationships, whatever. So we separated all of it. Well, what happened was the necklace and the earrings. The necklace was ordered like in white gold, and earrings were ordered in yellow gold. And so we had the yellow and the thing. So basically it was a complete mismatch of everything. And so I called my buyer and said, hey, would you, I knew the answer, but she said, no, I'm not taking any of it because I ordered them as a set, because a lot of people buy a set. And so I told her, I'll remake it, all that stuff. And she said, but you can't make it before Mother's Day, so I can't take it. Well, it was just bad. I ended up telling her to sell it at Christmas time if she would take it. And she said she would take it at Christmas time after like weeks of negotiations, that she would take it if I would discount it 25%, which was our whole margin, by the way.
Oh, geez.
And I had to guarantee that whatever doesn't sell, I have to take it back.
Oh.
So, and then I didn't have money. So that whole thing had to be borrowed. And so it was a real, crazy thing, but I didn't fire anybody. It was really, from that point forward, every single style in my company system now either has a YG or WG at the end as a part of the style number. Yeah. So that the person can now, so, there's a lot of little things like that, as a new owner, you don't anticipate, you don't know. And what are you going to do?
Like every single rule or every new policy or everything, there's always a reason behind it. It's always a story like that, something that you had to learn the hard way. And so I want to ask how much of your success, clearly at this point, you can consider yourself, a huge success. You've made hundreds of millions of dollars selling this jewelry over, a couple decades now. And how much of that do you contribute to your ability to really hone your mindset?
Oh, huge. I think that there were, even when we first came to America, when I first started my company, like I told you, even my own parents, all my bosses, my professors at school, I mean, everybody said the same, because they're like, they see this young girl, I've been working full time since I was 15, working her rear end off, willing to go above and beyond, just being always honest. And I've always helped anybody who's ever asked me for anything. I mean, people come to me for money or whatever, I would just empty my pocket, just give it to them. So they would always tell you that. And when you look at the statistics, they're always saying that, the small business failure rate is something like 90%. And in jewelry, it's pretty like 99%. So, and starting with no money, it's actually even worse. So, you have to think at some point, I said to myself, and I didn't dare saying it to other people because they would think I was crazy. But I said to myself, I was born on this earth. God did not put me on earth so I could come all the way to America and just starve to death. That's just not going to happen, and I'm not going to let this happen. And, I came in search of the American dream and I'm going to go find it. And every single day, life gets so bad. I remember one time my dad came home with one single orange, literally one orange. In Korea, we didn't have oranges back then. I mean, they have them now, but we didn't have any because then it was before FedEx days and all the shipping stuff. He would cut it in 8 sections because there were 7 people in the family and each of us got one little slice. Okay. No matter how bad things get, I say to myself, if I'm breathing right now, okay, I can't think about anything other than what am I going to do to help myself? Okay, there's all these other people that could help you. But the one thing I can do for myself, I'm going to have, if I'm breathing, I'd rather try doing that than spend time bitching about it or figuring out whose fault it is. So I just went ahead and did it. And I think that, even things like basically when I first got the orders, I was living in an apartment in Culver City, which is kind of it's a safe area now, but it was at the border of where dicey begins.
I was born in Washington Hospital in Culver City.
Yeah, so the Culver City National, that's just that border area was where the nasty part of starts. So I was there in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I thought, and there were robberies all around me. Okay, and I thought, okay, how do I secure my shipments? Okay, when they were coming in, I shipped like $500 of $2,000, $5,000, but it was still everything I had. So how do I secure this? Because jewelers usually have jeweler safe, like from floor to the top, and they'll usually have a jeweler's insurance, which is very high normally, and they have rents, the burglar alarms, all this stuff. I didn't have any of it. So I was thinking, like, how do I make sure that I'm not going to get killed over this inventory? And what happens if my business grows? What do I do? Because I don't want to have to pay rent. I don't have to do all this stuff. So I simply went to the B of A around the corner. Jewelry is small. So if things like rings like this, they're very small. So, and I didn't have huge orders. So I went out and got the biggest safe deposit box. And it was, I want to say it was $120 a year or something like that. And I got 2 of them. And I thought, well, that was going to be safer than any safe I was going to be able to afford, even if I had to pay $5,000 a piece. And so that worked out fine for about first 2 or 3 years,
So you, every day you would go from the bank and get, break out of your safe deposit box, the jewelry, and bring it. Now, did you have to
ship it? Yeah, we had to ship it. Basically, only the days I had shipments. In those days before Amazon, most people, especially wholesale, they didn't expect you to ship it the next day. It's very common for jewelry industry. So basically, I would go there like twice a week, and whatever shipments I had for the week, I would just go ahead and ship it right there. So, I got rid of those expenses. There was just a lot of things that you could cut out. If you look at the problem.
I love that. That's genius. That is an absolute genius strategy.
It's a necessity. It was necessary to come up with something,
But I want to speak to that. You said, you didn't come to America and practically, make all these sacrifices to just starve.
That's not going to happen.
And not complain and just be grateful for the air that you're able to breathe in and out of your lungs. And, so many people, they complain and complain and complain and complain. But all that does is just,
Yeah,
put the focus on the wrong thing. You
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
somehow you knew to focus on, on the right thing. And you just got, you just made it happen. And you were just so creative. So let's talk a little bit about your strategy, your 7-step system
Mhm.
to turn somebody's hobby into a successful business like you have.
Yeah, it's really simple. Now, I did it in the most complicated way. I'm going to tell you up front because I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have a system, and the world was different at that time. We didn't have internet. There was all these things that are considered obstacles. People are not used to seeing female business owners, for example. So, there was, are there going to be a fly by night? I mean, all these things kind of go into somebody's mind. But today, things are very different. So it's very simple. It's called the do it now system. The D stands for defining your dream. And I think a lot of people don't understand what their dream is. When you ask them, what is your dream life? And they will sometimes say, oh, I want to have a big car, a big house, big whatever. And they really don't kind of look into, when you say visualize how you want to live, like visualization, I know you're a very big person, you're very big on that. So when you visualize it, am I picking up my kids at 2 o'clock? Do I visualize myself, having a great time with my family in Italy or whatever it is? You have to define your dream. Dream is different for most people. A lot of people, like for myself, my dream was to be able to take care of my mother, my father, my family, and do, practice art. And I was always told all the artists, kind of starve to death. They only make money after they die, like Van Gogh and all these people kind of starved until they died. So I was willing to live on that, but that was my dream life, right? So for most of you, define your dream. How many hours do you want to work, and what do you want to do? And if everything works in your direction, what is the life you dream of? So you have to define that. And then you have to figure out, what are you willing to do to get that dream? I mean, is it anything and everything, or are you willing to work? I mean, if you tell me tomorrow I want to make $500 million by 2022, but I don't want to work, I mean, that's a real problem, isn't it?
There's a problem.
There's a slight problem with that. So you got to figure out what is it that you're willing to do to get your dream, into reality. And then in the do it now, is overcoming everything. That is where somebody like you, a hypnotist, can actually come in to, really help. People have to overcome their low self-esteem, low level of confidence, low level of courage. They fear everything in the world. What if this happens? What if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow? I mean, they fear everything. Whatever your fear is, it's real. And it's based on something, some past experience you've had, or conditioning, or whatever. I mean, people are not born with lower self-esteem. Like something happened to you. So all those things you have to work through. And it's hard work because you really have to look inward. And then I is for igniting your biggest opportunity. So, a lot of, and I know you suffer from this a lot of us entrepreneurs suffer from this. Most people that are creative, most people that have the energy, the courage to start their own businesses are full of ideas. They come up with 30 ideas a day, some of them more, and
Oh,
they
I
think they can
know.
do, 3 or
I'm
4.
like an idea manufacturer, and
Yeah,
it's to
exactly.
me, I feel like it is my it's anybody's biggest. It's almost like, some people don't have any ideas, but if
But
you
you
have
got too
too
many.
many, if
Yeah.
you have too many ideas, that will also be the death of your success.
Right. So the I is to ignite your biggest idea. Okay. You
Mhm.
have many ideas and you will continue to come up with new ideas, but your biggest idea for monetizing basically I have a worksheet, which I should actually have it listed somewhere, but I have a worksheet for people who suffer from that. Okay. So
Mhm.
you will list, for example, your idea. Let's say, like, for example, right now, you're a hypnotist, you're a business strategist, you're a mindset coach. Let's say you're a great photographer and you're a great interior designer. And then let's say you really, you're a great author. And so if you want to do all of them at the same time, it's going to kill you. But if you want to do the one thing, then you got to figure out which one thing actually is your biggest opportunity. So if you say, like, for example, for mine, I actually went through this myself for my own. So you'll see, like, I love painting, I love art. So my painter was my biggest dream. And so I have jewelry design, which is the closest, cousin to this. And then, I write, I wrote a fiction, I wrote, how to. And I love to play music. So, basically you write all these things. And so your skill set, how skilled are you in that particular thing? So in my particular case, I kind of poo-pooed the idea of writing because English is my second language. And even though I'm an avid reader and I write better than most people, I didn't think that I could be like J.K. Rowling's. Okay. I didn't think I ever had that opportunity to be that. So my skill set as a writer is like number 4 out of 5. Right. And so basically there's a 1 to 5 grading system. So your skill set, how passionate you are about that. So if you could do nothing, if you say, for example, tomorrow morning you hit the jackpot and you hit the lottery and you could have anything you want, money is no object, what would you do with your time? Well, would it be writing? Would it be designing jewelry? Would it be whatever? So you basically write the passion level. So there's a whole series of these things. And then when you come down to, can you make money? The last question is anybody willing to pay you for your passion and all this stuff? So in my thing, it's like, if you get anything over 20 in that whole, series of questions, that's a good business. Okay, that's a very good bit. You have the expertise, you have the skill set, you have the passion, and people are willing to pay for it. Tons of money. Now, if your passion was running, for example, you can do all of the above things. Maybe you won the track race for your state. You're got a great skill set, but will other people willing to pay you money for that? I don't know. So basically, I have. So
that was going to be my question: is can you make money at any of your hobbies? Like, yes. What if you just, you just love hiking or you love cats?
Yes, you can make money. I do believe I can get into the separate question on that too. You can make every hobby you're really passionate about. You can make at least $1 million or more. So now you've got ignite the greatest idea. And then targeting your audience. Who is your audience? So if you say, for like you're a jogger, okay, and you want to run the marathon or whatever, and your target audience is people that want to learn how to, learn how to run marathons, learn how to do all this stuff, and that's your target market, you can actually still make a lot of money doing that. If you're target. So basically, so you're targeting your audience. Who's your target audience? And how do you find them? Where they hang out in very large groups. So if you say, for example, I'm a wealth advisor and I want to, help people who are wealthy. Well, okay, great. What's wealthy? If you say, well, people who make $250,000 or more, well, you're going to end up with 50 million people. That's too big of a target. They live all over the world. But if you said on the other extreme, wealthy means billionaires. Well, just go to San Francisco. You're going to find pretty much 90% of the world's people there, right? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, you got to have that niche. You got to understand who your target market is. If you're selling like plant foods, for example, I just did this with a friend of mine the other day. She actually does sell plant foods. And I asked her a simple question: who's your target market? I mean, are they vegans? Are they people who want to be vegans, but, who are almost there, but not quite there yet? Are they beginner vegans? Or are they people who mostly want to eat meat, but they want to have 2 days a week where they want to eat plant food? I mean, they're very different target market, messages. You got to figure out who they are. And whatever you choose, you have to figure out where they hang out in very large numbers. So if you, for example, have a product for infants, let's say like there's a lot of great baby products. It's very easy to find them because all you got to do is find the pediatricians and OBGYNs. Okay, it's very easy. So you have to figure out who your target market is and where they hang out in very big numbers. And then now NOW means, the negotiating. There's a lot of negotiating. Negotiating is one of the least taught classes in anywhere, because, most people think, I'm going to have my lawyer negotiate. That is the worst thing you could do, because lawyers don't understand your business. They don't understand, if you say, I want to have, I want to have a huge stage at the next hypnotist convention, and I want X, Y, Z, and your lawyer doesn't understand any of this business,
Right.
you know, and
You're
you
the
say,
only one that really
you're the only
understands
one who
it.
understands it. And so, no, I want my time to, when the lawyer comes, oh, they're going to give you, an hour to speak, and you go, well, which hour? Right. I don't want to follow some, Apple presentation. I want to follow other, just like I want to be the, so, it's the worst thing you could do. So the negotiating tactics for with your suppliers, with your landlord, with this, people don't realize, for example, when you have an office space or you buy retail space, that when they charge you for like 5,000 square feet of space, if you measure it, you're going to find out you only have like 3,500 square feet.
No, it's a necessary skill for all businesses. I absolutely do believe that for anybody, really, to be able to negotiate. And so, I remember my father was like the king of negotiation. And and I just used to watch him just negotiate things like cars and houses and things that you're buying. And so that was definitely something. It was just a skill I inherited, and so I can really appreciate that.
Contract. Big contract. My contracts on all the TV stations that I was on. I was on in Tokyo and all the different places. Even when you ship merchandise to like a Macy's, Saks, any of these stores, you're having to enter into a vendor client contract relationship where they can charge you back for things that don't sell, or they might charge you back for marketing support. These are all contracts.
How does a person acquire the skill of negotiating if they didn't grow up with a father or people that naturally were good at it and taught them? How does a person acquire that skill? And we're going to get to the OW, but I'm just really curious.
That's the negotiating is so people can actually come to victoriawick.com, and I actually give a lot of free workshops, which is like limited to 20 people. And I can negotiating, I very rarely, I've used my lawyers for things like getting patents and trademarks. I worked at the Times Square Ball. All of these things that are contracts, I've had to negotiate them myself, because the minute you get a lawyer involved, they get their lawyer. Okay, so when the minute say, talk to my lawyer, they go, oh, you have a lawyer? Okay, well, in that case, we'll get our legal department on board. So the lawyers have egos. They're billing you for the whole thing. And they don't even understand one thing about your business. And you're like, well, wait a second, no, that's not what I meant. They're charging you $7.50 an hour. So I have a specific way I negotiate, which is, if you're really authentic and you tell them what you need, and you always have to understand that you're not going to get everything you need and you want, but the goal is to walk away with a lot more than what they were willing to give you. Right. So you end up a little bit more. And, I teach a whole class on this. Most of the time it's free unless you sign up for some of the more advanced classes. But the one tip I'll tell you is, if you want like 4 things that are deal breakers for you, let's say, in your case, you want to be the first speaker at the convention. Let's say you want to be the very first speaker on the convention, and you want 2 hours, and you want, no vendors present, like you want no coffee served, all this stuff. And you go there, and that's what you want. And you completely insist on this. Okay. So that, and then after you speak, you want like let's say 30-minute break where people can mingle with you. Okay. So, that's not realistic, but let's say this is what you need. So you, and then let's say you want to be paid for the speech. Okay. You want to be paid, and you want an X amount of, thing. And then you want, email addresses of everybody who attended. So let's say you got all these things that you want. What happens is, I always tell them to throw in like 5 things that you can easily give up, but you have to act like, I want email addresses. I want, refreshments served. I want a follow up, speech. Like after everybody else spoke, I want to be the first and the last. Well, you only really want to be the first, but because, in a convention, who cares? And by 3rd day, everybody's gone home anyway. But you can say, I also want to be the last person there.
So ask for more than what you want. More than what you're.
And I always usually also go in with, just so that you don't forget, I always go in with an agenda printed out in bullet form, and I hand it out to everybody. And I say to everyone, because there's usually, if it's a big enough deal, like my contracts on TV stations are very, very like it's mega digits. Okay. So what happens is they got their lawyer, they got their CFO, they have their CEO, they have their vice president of this or that. All these people are sitting there. And you don't know who's going to like raise their hand and say, no, we're not going to agree to this. So what I do is I usually have a sheet printed out. And I'll go in very nicely and I'll tell people, hey, I understand that, oh, thank you so much for coming. And I know that all of your time is very, very valuable. And I'm, really looking forward to receiving all of your feedback and, all your concerns and address them. And in order for me to save time for everyone, and so we get to the point and we are all on the same page, I listed some of the things that we want to discuss. So I just hand it all over.
Oh, that's great.
I list them in the order of my priority. Yeah. So what happens is when they sit there and go, well, is this a deal breaker? Absolutely. Well, we'll table that. So basically the things, basically you only wanted 4 things, but there are 15 things in there. So by the time they're done picking and choosing and all this stuff, if they say, you know what, you can't be the first. And you say, okay, well, I really do need to be the first. So, if I don't be the first, what else are you willing to give me? They might say, you can go second, but, we'll give you an extra hour. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, let me think about that. And you say, but the first one, I want it to be no more than 15 minutes because I don't want people to be tired. You might get that too. And then say, and by the way, since, you took away the most important thing to me, I also want to be paid in advance. I'm going to be paid for travel. I'm going to be paid for this and that. And, you ask for 6 more things and they'll say, well, we won't pay for your travel, but we'll pay for your hotel,
Got it.
So even if you be real. Like when it comes to hotels and all this stuff, we know that expense is really nothing. At the business level that you and I are operating, that hotel bill could be $1,000 or whatever. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you set the tone that there is a trade for everything that we're doing here. So at the end of the whole thing, you say, you know what, you guys got away with murder. You really did. I gave you 20 things on there, and I'm walking away with 4 things. But I'm really looking forward to working with you, and they'll usually say, Victoria, you were such a doll, we'll make it up to you.
That's amazing. Great. That's great. But that's a lot of information on negotiating. And I'm sure you've got a lot more to tell us about that on your website. But I want to get into the O and the W so that we can wrap up your formula here. So after you've learned or after you've negotiated, what would be the 6th step here? Yeah,
the 6th step is O, and that's optimizing your way to monetize all your resources. So basically, business environment, you could have, it's all the different business models. You can do business to consumer. And then you can do business to business, and then you can do a combination of both. And then you can also do affiliate marketing depending on. So if you're actually selling a physical product, you could do business to consumer, or you can do like business to business would be, in my case, like I sold to Macy's, Saks, HSN, whoever, those would be all business to business, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to figure out where your resources are optimized. Do I go business to business? Because there are pros and cons to all of it. And there are pros and cons to a particular business to business, meaning that if you go on TV stations, you're going to get a huge volumes, but you're also doing a little bit lower margin. Mm-hmm. You also have to appear on TV. So you have to have a whole other skill set. Whereas business to consumer, you don't have those worries, but you also have job security. You're not going to have 10 million people leave you on the same day. So, it's more of a rock solid business. That's 2 very extreme things, but there is a way you can optimize so that you're really maximizing your bottom line profits and security of your business. And then the last thing is win the game, which is when you launch your business. A lot of people, like if you look at a restaurant or, a law office or hypnotist office, you focus so much on the opening and the launch, you're great. And you think, oh my God, I've saved all this money and I did all this stuff and I got all this PR and there's opening day. Okay. You don't realize that opening day should be a whole process. So, if you're opening a restaurant, for example, you could actually find out what your ideal menu needs to be before you open the restaurant. So, the opening day should be, I mean, every day you open should be opening day, meaning that every day you open, you have to have the same attention level as opening day. You know, you got the same staff, same attention to detail, writing down, observing every customer. But I say, think of it like a job interview. When you do a job interview, you're asking, when you open something, you're asking your customers to hire you for a job, hire you as a hypnotist, hire you as a, coach or whoever. So if you go to any job interview, you're going to do your homework on the company that you're applying for a job. You're going to know everything about them. You're going to actually, understand who you're dealing with, who's actually going to interview you, their company history, what do they want from you, what do they pay, all this stuff. Then you show up, dress really nicely, do all this stuff. Then you follow up. So when you open, that's the only way you win the game now. Do you know that if you're selling anything over $500, if you're selling a car, it takes up to 27 touch points before they'll buy it. You're not going to place an ad and they'll go, oh, I didn't really realize I need a Tesla tomorrow. Let me just go to the bank and just pay. It doesn't happen. They'll come and they'll go, do I really need a car? I really don't. But if I ever needed a car, would I go for Tesla? Would I go for this? I mean, it's, depending on the price point, it could take so many times. Now, if you're selling something for like $300, you're selling, hair care or whatever, it might take you 4 or 5 points, touch points. But the point is, it's never on the opening day, all these businesses show up. And the other thing I want to say too is, if you probably got the theme. If you are listening to me right now, most of the things I've told you is common sense. Most of them. Okay. It doesn't require advanced degrees or multiple languages. It's really common sense. So this is the biggest common sense. When corporations talk about their new customer generation, they got all these new users, they got millennials are loving this stuff. They all talk about new customers all the time. And it's true. You need to have your existing customers to buy more, and then you want to get new customers in. This is how you grow. Well, if you open a restaurant day one and you have 300 customers and you're like, oh my God, my restaurant only seats 100 and I had 300 customers. I mean, it's like the best thing ever. I got 300 customers. Well, no, you don't. You know why? Because if 150 of them never came back, those people are not coming back for a reason. Mm-hmm. They either got food poisoning, they hated the service, they hated the food, they thought it was expensive, they thought it was noisy, whatever it is. They will then go and tell people, oh, I tried it. I didn't really like it because the food was horrible and the service was horrible and it was too noisy. But they say that all those 150 people are going to be telling 10 other people why they don't go back there. So not only are they not customers, but they're going to prevent you from getting new customers. Right. So,
right.
Now if you were selling like bath soaps, okay, you sold 300 bath soap kits, and you have to understand whether you give any money back guarantee or not, your credit card companies will give the consumer. Okay. So let's say 300 and then 200 of them came back and said, the soap doesn't work for me. Okay. Again, you only have 100 customers. So I don't actually count my customers until they buy it for the second time. Because when they come back to you the second time, they came voluntarily. They tried it the first time, came back. So, a lot of times small business owners, they're so excited. They don't really realize this is the power of your mind working the other way. Mm-hmm. In Chinese, they have a saying called, the fish don't describe water well. Okay, so they're in the water, they're in the same, the fish are around the same, they don't describe it well. It's like you're so into this and, you put your heart and soul into this and you think, oh my God, these people just loved it. Well, you don't know they loved it.
I think that's a great rule of thumb because, yeah, I mean, a customer is not really a customer unless they come back and repeat buy. You've really provided us some amazing information today. I just want to recap the 7 steps here of your do it now. So each of these do it now is an acronym for the 7 steps, which is to define your dream, to overcome what you need
all
to
your
overcome.
stuff, yeah.
Okay.
All your past.
okay, to ignite your biggest idea. All right, to have a target audience, because marketing to everyone is really marketing to no one. So you have to know who your people are. And then the now is negotiating, which we dive really deep into, the optimizing, figuring out what your business model is, and winning the game, which we just talked about. And so you are just a wealth of
Thank you.
amazing information. This has been a fantastic podcast, and there's so many more things, but I mean, an hour has already gone by
Done.
so quickly here. I just want to talk about real briefly how they can dive in and get some more information here at your website, victoriawick.com, which is Victoria, VictoriaWieck.com. And if you go to this website, you're going to find your two upcoming books that people can get on the pre-release list for: the $1,000,000 Hobbies and the Shattered Sky. So it's interesting. You're releasing a book that's a fiction and a nonfiction, which is totally amazing. And then I also recommend you tuning into the $1,000,000 Hobbies podcast. I'm going to be on that podcast, and you're an amazing host, and you ask amazing questions and get amazing people on your podcast to help inspire you. And you're going to learn more about your jewelry, and then you also have this free upcoming webinar to teach people how to make more money and work less. And they can learn all about guest blogging, starting their own blog, social media, guest podcasting, hosting a podcast, doing paid advertising, authoring their own book. And so that's a webinar that you offer on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, so I took the 6 pillars that I needed to learn and master for me to build my business, which is a very, very solid business. It's still growing. So, and I'm sharing that because right now I told you before we got on air that, I don't want to take all the credit for everything that's happened to me. I do believe that there was, just many, many moments. A lot of luck has to happen. And people do say to you that you make your own luck, but I worked really hard. But I know people that's worked hard, much harder than I have, that hasn't, really found the fruits of their labor yet. So during COVID, I went through this whole period of feeling like really guilty that my life is actually so much better under COVID. And because, as you know, online sales, everything just exploded. And I don't have to travel to do my TV shows. And, everything's, my family's really, like, I get to spend a lot of time. So I started feeling really guilty about that. And I wanted to help other people who aspire to still achieve their dreams, and they need a little help. So I took the 6 things that I needed to build my business, and I offer them in free webinars, free workshops. But here's the trick: I only do one thing a month. I don't really do this to make a living. You can sign up to work with me, but that's not the point of this one. So one thing a month, and it's limited to 25 people. Because the first time I did the free webinar on the social media, the blogging, by the way, every single thing that you listed, I've done all of it. So it's not like some theory. I've actually done it, because a lot of people teach stuff they don't actually do have, their own. And the first time I did it, I had like 300 people sign up the first hour. By the time I actually did the webinar, it was like 2,000 people. And what happens is you guys can't ask questions and have, real answers given to you. So I like to have the 25 people and really impact them. So if somebody wants to take their business from 6 figures to 7 figures, those webinars, those 25 people things are very, very valuable. And I just say that don't sign up for everything. A lot of people sign up for everything. Just sign up for the one that you think you need the most help with, because most entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you can kind of relate to this. you know your skill set, you know your limitations, you know, like you said, like I have all these ideas, you know, like this is a control issue that you have. So, you know, if but most entrepreneurs know a lot of things. They know how to do 90% of what they do well. You don't need me to teach you how to do, I don't need to teach you how to do hypnosis, for example. Okay. So if it's something that doesn't apply to you, leave the seat for somebody else. That person, you know, like I do storytelling. I do storytelling mastery is one of my most popular, because a lot of people want to know how you tell your stories. That's how I make a living on TV. And video influencing. I do, you know, negotiating seminars, all of those things that if you're already running a business, you probably don't need to come to any of my paid classes that, you know, are pretty expensive, just because, you know, I'm giving that to you in smaller form, and mostly for people who already understand it. It's not like a real beginner's class by any means.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That is so generous. I mean, and I really believe that people that make a lot of money, they figure this out, are the most generous
Yeah.
people. They just want to give and help other people. And you definitely exemplify that. You've been an amazing guest and gift to this show. And so I just really honor you, and I appreciate you, and I respect you, and I wish you nothing but continued success, and success to the people that reach out to you. I implore anyone who's listening to this to go to your website. The website's been mentioned several times. It's also going to be in the show notes and right here on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, wherever you are, go to Victoria Wieck's website and get yourself signed up for one of these free workshops. What do you have to lose? So thank you so much for
Thank you, Victoria, and right back to you too. You're an amazing person, and I guess you were a great guest of mine, and just an amazing person. You know, you're such a ray of sunshine and delight, and I appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.